meta game is, we can play against the meta and have high win rates against, you know, counter picks that we know about that you don't. Frog and Twisted Fate and Anivia are examples of this, and hey, if the Sivir does that well, then more power to CLG.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of game theory that goes into this, and I've personally subscribed to, instead of trying to imitate the meta, understand the meta and then figure out what you can do to beat that, to kind of try and give yourself the inbuilt advantage. The problem with that in League of Legends is a lot of teams realize that the opportunity cost of learning those champions is so high that oftentimes it's more effective to just play the same game as others and work on your execution. Then you're also less variable to like quick patch cycles and you get better at just picking things up. But that could honestly be like a whole different discussion that has no place in this champ select right now, as we have LeBlanc and Rengar banned on one side, with Camille making it to the pick phase.
Oh, you're right. Syndra got left up, and that means Camille is there we go. Syndra banned Camille up, and bam, Camille unsurprisingly first picked. Most teams will do that.
But the thing with this now is we've seen Camille support, we've seen Camille mid, Camille top is where you would expect her to be, but you can Camille jungle. So this is the flex pick of flex picks currently.
Camille can do it. Spoiler alert, it's going to be Wild Turtle playing the champion. Who even knew? But going to be fun to watch for, absolutely. We know she's very, very strong. The expected counter pick is Poppy. There's other ones we've seen as well. I forget the next up on the list, but if you go by what everyone else has done as the counters, those are the champions, it allows CLG to grab first-round picks onto both Varus and Ryze, who are very high-profile champions in their own right.
Yeah, and Varus goes all the way through the draft phase last game. This time, CLG deciding to just naturally mix things up. They do not go for the Sivir Karma strategy again, although it could have technically been very available to them. Also keep in mind that the Zyra and the Malzahar are up if they want to go with a more similar style. TSM goes with Jhin once again. Yeah,
Jhin, the solid pickup here. TSM happy to play that one once again, and the Corki's still available, so a very similar composition. A new top laner, but still a carry top laner, we're assuming, of course. And otherwise, the same double marksman picked for mid and bot.
Yeah, and the Poppy being locked in for CLG is actually a decent matchup. If you think of all of the potential like interactions with Camille versus Poppy, so many of them go Poppy favored. Like if Camille wants to wall jump into you, you can steadfast presence, you interrupt it. If Camille locks Poppy in a zone, Poppy can just hit Camille out of the zone with the ultimate. So of the champions you can pick against Camille, Poppy is probably the best. So not a bad choice there by CLG if they're going to be letting Camille through draft phase.
And even in the fights one-on-one, when you're just battling back and forth, Poppy, a bit of a bruiser, she does plenty of damage in her own right. And until you can start lifesteal tanking on the Camille with Ravenous Hydra and a bit more, Poppy can actually do pretty well in actually just fighting her 1v1, which you'd think was Camille's strength.
In North American Challenger Series, which obviously isn't the same level as TSM versus CLG in the LCS, we were seeing some teams actually intentionally just let Camille through multiple times to pick the Poppy into the matchup. So not completely unheard of. Also, that all changes if TSM decides to jungle the Camille, as they still haven't locked into jungle, and have that as a potential pick.
Absolutely the case. We'll see what it ends up being here with Zyra off the table, Bard as well. So similar bans once again from the TSM side of things. Counterlogic Gaming, well, they need themselves jungle and support.
They could actually do Warwick if they wanted to. We have seen a little bit of Warwick in the European LCS. Huge tank in the late game because he can get up to 55% damage reduction. But this is the one we actually thought we were going to see more of. Jungle Graves with the buff to the lethality build can one-shot squishies.
It's actually pretty brutal, the amount of damage that Graves can get up to. We know Smithy can be a very fast farmer and can be a high damage player. Counter pick must go over another TSM. They know the jungle matchup. Doesn't matter to them very much. They do not yet know their opponent's support. They must blind pick this role now themselves, but only the two core support mages off the table, and it looks like it will be a reprised role on Thresh.
Yeah, so really just jumping back to that Thresh, it is still a very versatile pick for Biofrost. He can make a lot of plays and really rescue a lot of teammates if they step out of position, but not the most raw power in that pick. And it is a beautiful combo with Lee Sin as well if they want to gank that lane frequently. We'll see if CLG pick a good disengage support now that they've saved it for the final pick.
Time to see what they want to do for themselves. Now they know what they're up against. Morgana has been seen as a good counter pick to Thresh because the black shields are good, but comp-wise, maybe they still want Karma for the movement speed. It's still a forward motion team. It's not exactly poke-based, so Varus really the only one performing that role. CLG, what do they got for teammates? It will be Morgana. It's one of Afremu's very favorites. Supposed to be a good matchup for the lane assignment, and that does give some openings with the bindings.
Yeah, and the several support bans I actually feel plays a little bit into the favor of CLG here, just because the supports Afremu has picked in these first 2 games, Karma and Morgana, do have that ability to initiate and kind of dictate where the team is going.
Right.
Whereas if you're playing something like Zyra, it's very much about sitting back and kind of being this counter engager that doesn't want to jump in and die. So here, Afremu can start things with Dark Bindings and have a lot more control over the game.
Yep, something Afremu likes to do with CLG as they gel into what the 2017 season is supposed to look like as the other teams formulate their strategies. CLG must get their own, and Champ Select is done. You can see their comps on your screen as we zoom out and see the players on stage and their respective avatars in front of them here.
Yeah,
Final comments.
And I also think TSM needs to worry a little bit about not having a true tank. One of the things that happens when you do end up first picking McCamille is it dictates a lot of the other decisions you have to make in your champion select. They haven't gone with a super tanky jungler, and they haven't gone with a really tanky support because those things don't necessarily exist that much in the meta right now. So it's tricky for TSM, and even though it is an incredibly overpowered champion that they're picking in the top lane, it constrains the rest of their team composition and means they got to be really careful about team fights because everyone is squishy, and if they get picked off by a Dark Binding, that person's probably going to die.
Yeah, seems like it's going to be an interesting one yet again. TSM have to navigate once again around low tank power and the Dark Bindings of Afremu to be countered off with Black Shield and the hooks from Biofrost. Let's see what we can do for ourselves. Game 2 underway. Switching sides, TSM versus Counter Logic Gaming. We'll see if TSM can make a comeback in this series.
Yeah, and CLG really wanting to close out this series would mean a lot. We got the competing chance once again.
Always a favorite. Thank you, crowd, once again for being awesome as a big standoff in the mid lane. Sadly, not a dance party. If Sneaky were there, he'd do it. It's part of the reason why he's A tier.
Yeah, something about having Morgan Thresh in the game makes the dance parties in the mid lane a little bit more dangerous.
Oh, Darshan. Q to the face. Chasing Svenskar and Huhi. Flash W. It's not worth it, but...
Yeah, I mean, they're going to...
That was not even close, Darshan. I don't even know why you did it.
Yeah, now he's got
Yeah, now they can hit him back.
Turn. Well, we don't get a dance party, but we get a bunch of champions flailing at each other in the river, at least.
Yep. Svenskar 100% of his team's damage. You know, we said TSM were underperforming individually, but 0 damage from everyone, really, guys? I mean, Svenskar in 4 wards this game, man. It's just unlucky.
Classic TSM.
Yeah.
But really, start of this map, not too much is changing. Both junglers starting top side of the map. Although the ward from TSM will give them a little bit more information on where CLG is starting. Notice the nice pull from Darshan, taking several hits, using the Buckler Shield and making sure Xmithy's starting this jungler real high health.
And 2 more shots should be enough to knock down the red buff, and Xmithy 17 seconds after it spawns, done with his first camp. Svenskar a little bit slower on his run, but he's going to be fine for himself, saving his potion stacks, and then make sure he can use both halves of Q during the spell vamp portion of the safeguard and then Iron Will spell vamp. TSM with early lane pressure here. I gotta actually see Afremu did start Vine to look for lane pressure, but as a result, it means he can't push the lane nearly as well as Biofrost and Turtle can. And
yeah,
look at that play, good damage on a stick. Say, ooh, the dancing grenade lands as well. That is actually quite a bit of damage.
Yeah, once again, both ADs as well go with the long sword start. So if they do get hit by a binding or a death sentence, a little bit more risky. So hoping to sustain up through AD carry poke, as these 2 supports have a little bit less poke than the ones we're used to. A little surprised we're not seeing the Doran's Blade, but they obviously just want the quick longsword item completion so they can both rush Ghostblade first.
Yep. And right now, Biofrost should be calling out in comms. Hey, blue buff's gone. Smithy must be around his wolves right now. Svenskar, by the way, a full camp ahead. Smithy just now finished his 3rd camp, and Sven's practically done with his 4th. Well, I guess not a full camp anymore. He was 3-2, but wolves died really fast. Either way, Sven, I guess a slight minion lead, but we know Graves can kill Raptors quickly.
Yeah.
Or poke. Ooh, a nice bind into the Q into not much more. Afremu, of course, has learned Black Shield. So he's not getting any free gold off of Tormented Soil, but needs to counterplay the Thresh damage, of course, and has to Black Shield any hooks that come out.
Yeah, very defensive lane open for CLG. As we get a 50-50 Twitter vote. Last time we saw one of those, I do not remember.
That's okay. It's all about how you actually play the game. Thankfully to many fans.
Twitter vote.
Yeah, sorry. This is actually, we're going to game 3. It's obviously tied up. It's 1-1 now. Just remake. Twitter has decided that we should be going to a decider already. Throw and Stixxay level 3. Ooh, can't Black Shield in time, and Turtle slightly missing the W. He was expecting Flay to come in, but expected it too early. Oh, and that's a little cute by Hanser. It's like, yeah, okay. There's reflexes are. And actually, I gotta check something if the cooldowns are even the same. It's actually significantly shorter on hookshot. I didn't actually know that coming in because I don't play both champions that much, but Hanser actually can now freely go for hookshot with Steadfast Presence down.
It's about 24 seconds at this stage in the game to 15 based on their current cooldown reduction total. So if he uses it within that 9-second window, he'd be able to kind of win that trade, so to speak. But early on in the lane, not too much kill pressure either way.
Not so much. Small farm lead for Hanser. We'll see what else comes in. Oh, lane gig attempt in for Xmithie in case something aggressive happened, but nothing really did, so not really a huge problem there. I don't think he got spotted.
Yeah, and one nat right now is actually an opportunity for TSM, and you'd think Svenskeren to actually go for the aggressive wards because they have all 3 lanes pushing. Xmithie tries to shove Bjergsen out of the lane, because that's something that was so core to TSM's playstyle last split, where they would win multiple lanes, and Svenskeren would very proactively go for invades. He got caught invading last game, and now they're going to try and pull off a gank. He still might take it.
Lose as late as he can. Flash to pull him towards the turret. Maybe a bit more than they needed. There we go. Stixxay now has got to be careful. This one dodges some, can't dodge it all. First blood comes through. Stixxay didn't even use heal. He thought he was dead anyway. Maybe the right call, maybe a mistake, not sure. But first blood TSM's got to feel good.
Yeah, and that's the threat of the Thresh Lee Sin gank. They can close an absurd amount of distance, and even when they didn't execute properly, as the Dark Passage was taken a little early and didn't take Svenskeren as deep in the lane as they wanted, they still burned 3 summoner spells as well as get a kill, which will only set up more ganks later. So we watch this one more time, and Aphromoo is just trying to keep some vision in the river as they try and shove it in. Bifrost gets there, and you can Black Shield the hook. It doesn't stop Thresh from being able to get there, because I believe he Black Shielded.
You can just pull it anyway, fine.
Exactly.
It doesn't stop the
you can pull it anyway. At that point, he's still able to play Stixxay since he burned the Black Shield early, and the kill is fairly easy to finish.
Yeah. That time, actually, Stixxay probably should have used heal. He actually would have lived. The Q already connected. He died to an auto attack. So I think a small misplay by Stixxay not burning a summoner to live, but either way, it's a well-executed gank by TSM. The kill came through all the same.
Yeah, we also have to keep in mind, everyone on TSM still had flash. So if he does heal, they might just flash follow. Arguable to say if they'd be able to get it. I agree with you, we probably should have at least forced the flashes, since a heal for flash trade would be worth it. But they're going to be very vulnerable in that lane now.
It's going to be risky. CLG's got to play it careful. They thought they had a good matchup. 700 gold advantage. TSM trade back and forth. Hanser gets the physical damage shield. Darshan says, I have Sunfire Cape. That's okay with me. Please bomb me Cinder. Something for magic damage. Once again, Sven found inside his own jungle, who he really putting some damage across, forcing the ward hop. Darshan's actually not in the brush. Now actually a lot of damage into the turret. Has to land this. And the flash by Hanser keeps him in turret range. What a mistake by Darshan, and what an outplay by Hanser.
Yeah, a pretty bad mistake by Darshan, because he was always going to take turret aggro by going for that play, and Hanser was level 6, so he just locked him in. Pretty simple kill for Hanser to complete, and that's going to really hurt the lane for Darshan later.
So suddenly a 2-0 laning lead for TSM. It's the advantage that CLG had in the first one. They tease him off to the gates early.
Yeah, and it's not like Hanser was level 5 and got 6 off a minion. He was level 6 when this started. Doesn't get the stun unless he thought he'd be able to one-shot him. Then the flash sideways just to make sure he finishes the kill, but quite honestly, the turret may have been enough to do it, because he was locked in turret range thanks to the Camille ultimate.
Well, as soon as he's jettisoned out, the ulti drops, so I think he had to flash. The damage that Hanser put in, maybe not as required, but still, the outplay was beautiful, and it was just good. That's all I can say. Really good play by Hanser, and then obviously a mistake by Darshan. So, 1,500 the gold lead here, TSM. Let's see what else they can get for themselves. Plus 12 down in this bot lane, plus 8 in top, plus 8 in mid. It's really only Xmithie who's been out farming. Graves, we know, can do so well in his early jungle. And actually individually up gold, despite the fact that Svenskeren got 100 gold from the first blood assist. There's the block, there's the wall stun. That's what it's supposed to look like half the time in this matchup. You can see Darshan gets a bit out of it. Hanser trades long enough to get a good bit of damage in the end.
And he's got his Sheen now as well, so that
Yeah.
proc can be very potent right onto Darshan.
Yeah, worth pointing out that a fair portion of Camille's damage is true damage. The back half of her Q, if you wait long enough to cast it, will do partial true damage. Scales up with character level, so later on it'll be all true damage, but it means that armor stacking for Darshan has some mitigated effectiveness.
Absolutely. And Smithy really just power farming the jungle. Notice how he doesn't even think of handing it off to Boozy, who's gone with the Tier and Catalyst, hoping to just power farm up. I wonder if he's hoping to catch it.
He's got a level
Garen. Oh, the package though.
Finding into, and of course he can't Q the wall, it'll blow up in his face, so can't do much more. They deny the first gank attempt, or the second gank attempt I should say. Darshan, ooh, doesn't get the E off in time, gets stunned out of it actually. That's pretty rough for him. Hanser can't quite land the back half of the Q, but really starting to get a huge lead in this matchup, and it's frozen in front of Hanser's turret. Darshan has to overextend to farm, and it's going to make his life pretty miserable.
Yeah, and CLG is in a lot of trouble in this early game because all three of their lanes are getting pushed in, and they're also down because they're unable to pull off any ganks thus far. So it's a very easy Ocean Drake for TSM to take. That will just enhance their laning. And unlike last game where TSM was unable to poke through CLG because of the Ocean Drakes, TSM is now controlling that. So CLG won't have that regeneration to fall back on if TSM tries to go for sieges.
This feels pretty good for TSM then. This is a calm, controlled game. Lanes are winning, objectives are winning. This is one you can ride into the sunset and feel good about a game picked up if it keeps going this way. Darshan once again looking for his opening back in. Hanser will wait out the shield, get his own, and then Hanser must do the same. And that is part of this matchup, is playing around when the shields come through. Darshan gets a nice trade, and actually Hanser's Q is on cooldown, so manages to dodge even more of his damage that way.
You're really just trying to survive at this point. Darshan's fairly used to actually playing from behind as a poppy lane. I mean, he talked about the nuances of tanks a few minutes earlier, but previously he was such a good playmaker with it that it didn't necessarily matter that he was down CS in lane.
Yeah.
He's going to have to be able to make a lot of plays here, but it's tricky against a Camille who can close so well on you.
Yeah.
Good ward in lane, though, to see Sven Garen.
That is very intelligent by Darshan. He knows that a lane gank might be coming, and he's very correct about that. Beautifully done by Darshan. You talk about his TP flanks and how he's able to do good things in the mid game. This bot lane is super volatile. You've got a Realm Warping Rise, you've got a ton of damage out of Graves, and both Varus and Morgana are hard crowd control champions. They're skill shot dependent, but if you land it, there's definitely all the tools you need to set up the kills. So maybe we see something happening bot lane in the near future for CLG. They want to stop this slow bleed as they are losing their laning phase just by a little bit.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting if CLG went for a 5-man dive just because Darshan still has his teleport up. He would give up potentially his turret in the top lane if he did that, though, which is one thing that's potentially keeping them at bay. But as you mentioned, they definitely have the tools to go for something in there. They're hoping to kind of kickstart this game somehow as they're getting a little bled out in the lane phase.
Oh, you want someone to kickstart. Camille's probably the one. That's how she fights. She's got razor blade legs. Oh no, CLG maybe the wrong champions for that. It was a bad joke. We're just going to move on. I appreciate your sensible chuckle, Jat. I didn't deserve the compassion. But here comes the bot lane pressure. Smithy's coming in with his marksman buddy, and got Afro coming as well. Thanks, buddy. Oh, the ult's going to land. They've got to land the rest of it. That's going to be all the damage they need. There's no way out. The roots prevent the lantern. And a kill finally in for Counterlogic Gaming. Now the wall tackle. Darshan suddenly, that's the kind of damage you can do on Poppy. And yeah, he's got to run away.
There
Darshan's gonna force the flash away. That's what the match is supposed to look like for Darshan. Is why he picked the champion.
He's gonna try and get there.
Oh no, Hanser already out of range. There's no kill to be had. Tackles the Scuttle Crab.
Gotta know when to stop, Darshan.
And he had to stop a little bit ago. There's the kill picked up. Sven Garen knocks him into the wall, kicks him in the end. CLG overextending. Oh, it's even worse now. Aftermove, Black Shield's not going to be enough, but Xpithy turns it back as a 1-for-1. Now the Ghost to run away. Xpithy's got to flash the Q. How long on play? 2, 1, into the frame they go. As the Duke away, here comes the rest of them. Xpithy can't make it alive. And another hook force from the flash out of Huhi. That is advantage TSM 5-2 overall.
Really messy series of events right there as Darshan gets the flash from Hanser, but the hook shot comes up right as Darshan was looking for a flash finish, and that's when it should have ended. But Darshan continued to chase through. Everyone on CLG attempts to help him with the play. They pick one kill back up onto Hanser. but then they end up losing xSmithy as well on the backside, and that slightly increases TSM's lead in the game. So going all the way back to the very beginning of this, the CC chain is very real. Varus ultimate into Dark Binding, can't click the Lantern while you're affected by immobilizing effects. In here, Darshan pulls off the combo just right. Steadfast Presence, wall stun, Haunter leaves, allows Darshan to follow. He gets him with the point blank ultimate, and you're really just tracking cooldowns here. Darshan is hoping to get the flash. We all know how that ends. He's able to get the wall jump out as Darshan flashes, but then...
And who should have called they're coming?
Yeah, what is Darshan doing with that play onto Scuttlecrab? Because not only has he used his E, he is also down a flash and would not have been able to catch Haunter, and that just baits in the rest of the fight.
Yeah, so unlucky overextension. Of course, we know the rest of it went even farther in TSM's favor. That kind of Legend Gaming at least saw glimmers of hope, but the gold's getting farther apart. Tiamat now done for Haunter means more attack damage. Sunfire done for Darshan is a pretty big deal, since Haunter will only gain a physical damage shield. The Sunfire cape will actually burn you down a pretty reasonable amount, in between Ocean Drake regens, of course, as Haunter can feel really good about how that trade looked.
That Sheen proc on the back end of that.
Yeah.
Really hurting them.
Uh-oh, it's Smithy, and of course, here comes Svenskeren around. Look at how much damage that was. That was Thunderlords plus a Sheen proc, the Trinity Force there as well, and he had no way out of that one. That's a solo kill grabbed cleanly by Bjergsen. TSM now farther ahead.
Yeah, pretty straightforward use of package that Bjergsen's been consistent with this series, and it's very effective. He just essentially walks into the enemy jungle every time he has package. If he finds the jungler, he can fight him and go for a pick. If he finds nothing, he can just use the package to get back to lane. So it's a safe and effective use of that ability. Gets the kill onto xSmithy.
And now it's even more for TSM looking to pressure this top lane. Svenskeren taking away some of the jungle, but if Poppy shows back up, you know you can get ganked. You can see Darshan just AFK. He's going to let the minions block him a little bit. He's got Ashman coming behind. This should be enough to keep the turret alive. 3v2 with the turret's going to be enough for them, I think. Monster taking a couple of turret shots more than he'd like, but that turret is dangerously close to dead. One more push will do it if they dedicate the resources.
Yeah, and TSM just trying to continually pressure CLG on the map, and CLG has been unable to answer back with any big plays to stop the pressure. And they're dangerously close to falling hopelessly far behind in this game, because since there's accumulating pressure in all lanes, once that first turret drops, there's a chance that the other tier 1 turrets in the rest of the lanes could go as well, and that would lead to a 5 to 7k gold lead for TSM.
Yep, and that's almost insurmountable this early on. That's a substantial lead if you get it for themselves. We'll see, 3,000 still the deficit. CLG got to work up from this. Smithy's still hard farming as much as he can, but of course he's a bit squishy right now. Zerk Greaves and a Warrior Enchant and a Longsword means he can definitely die to Bjergsen's Corki. And jumps up the wall, finds Biofrost. That's a whole bunch of punishment. Bach's not going to slow this yet. Even jukes away from the hook, and now ulti nearly is enough, and the final shot comes through. He lands the skill shot. Now can they juke? Can they block the deadly? Oh, here comes, that's the first kill. Yes, Svenskeren gets one. Smithy has been able to kite away from Jhin, but the CC is there, and Bjergsen is locked up. CLG with the 2-for-1 so far. The trade kill in the back, though, nicely played by Haunter. He's got 2 more kills coming his way. Can he find the assassinations? Who he next on the table? The flash still means they knock out Wild Turtle, but Darshan, sorry, not Wild Turtle, knocking out the Camille, but Darshan running away back towards his turret. Wild Turtle, 2 attacks will kill. Deadly Flourish is one of them that he needs.
Oh, man.
They got to push out this wave. They are so low.
Actually, really nice ult by Darshan at the end of that fight, predicting the flash from Haunter.
Yeah.
At the Papillon, but the rest of the fight is what we need to analyze at the start of this one, because it was, again, CLG trying to make a play, which I admire them for, but it just doesn't quite work out in the end, because TSM is able to scatter in towards the back of it, and you can see the final end of this fight with Haunter's Camille being able to take out that mid lane turret, and TSM getting that second Infernal, or second Drake, this time Infernal.
That's really nice, because there's so many one-on-one matches that TSM could use the stats on, so
yeah.
Starts out really cute.
Love the play by xSmithy getting a large amount of burst down. Biofrost misses the death sentence, and then they get the execute with that last Q from Rise, but this opens up. Aphromoo takes so much damage from Bjergsen's Svenskeren, and xSmithy's able to dodge out of that ultimate, and then CLG early on the teleport. You think that's really good. They close the kill onto Bjergsen, but Haunter jumps in the backside, kills Stixxay, and then no one can really match him because it's still that 3v3, and Camille is just so strong at this point of the game.
I think he just missed the flash.
Yeah, I think he just missed the flash. I thought that Darshan actually shot it backwards, predicting the flash, but nope. Big hitbox, turns out, from Darshan. Even so, that lead now 5,000 to TSM.
That's why I thought of knockback turtle. I was like, oh, okay, it's another sweet flash play by Hanser. Someone flew away. It must be. No, it was just Hanser flashing onto the hammer. But either way, bit of column A, bit of column B. Advantage TSM. I believe that fight was 3-2 overall, and they got the Drake on the end of it. So definitely a bigger lead. 4.8 thousand's got to feel good. And suddenly, bot lane outer turret, the next target of opportunity. Looks like there's no one around to defend it. Huhi playing really defensively, very far back.
Exactly. This is that turret cascade we talked about a few minutes ago. Since TSM has been gradually pressuring the entire map, this is where the turrets really start to fall and potentially the lead becomes insurmountable. You can see all of TSM's turrets still very healthy, and now the map control moves into the jungle of CLG, making it even harder for them to farm or defend their tier 2 turrets.
And you see the plays that TSM now willing to make the 4-man push. There were, I think, exactly 2 cast minions alive, and they killed a turret full HP because how much damage they had right there. That is TSM aggression and really turning this game open.
Yeah, Trinity Force Corki also spectacular at killing turrets at this stage in the game. CLG is just kind of running back and forth, trying to get plays, but with just the 4 kills to show for it, they are falling further and further behind.
Going to require quite a lot for Chronologic Gaming to make this comeback. And no turrets, no Drakes, just the 4 kills. And those were mostly traded against. TSM, we can just keep watching them. Again, Darshan is quick on that, but this is one auto attack away from dead. The minions will do it for him. I believe he actually walked away from local gold range, so he missed out on about 200 gold there. And now the play on Bjergsen, the root's gonna land in time. CC's there, still gets the trade kill on this squishy Graves with the armor pen with the lethality. He just gets popped by Corki so quickly.
Yeah, Bjergsen should not have been able to get a 1-for-1 out of that one, as he has had a few issues of getting caught out, but when he's able to trade a kill around like that, it doesn't turn into that big of a cost.
See more coming in, I think. The bind's gonna look for this one. Black Shield and a Who, he keeps him alive for now, but the trade is there. Here's the ultimatum, and there's the damage output. One picked up for Hanser. Aftermove's next up with the chopping block. 2-man knock, back of the hook. Forcing the flash away from Stixay. Darshan still tanky. Sven actually gonna go for the kickback in, and oh, Wild Turtle can't quite land the deadly flourish. Darshan able to limp away with his life, but this is gonna be probably another turret picked up for TSM. And as Ocean Drake kicks it for Aspa, more regen.
Yeah, Darshan looking to start the fight again.
One more hit. Actually, Wild Turtle hit the wrong. He hit a minion, and that could not be enough damage. Oh, this is so chaotic. It's 50 with the red. Smite actually got enough onto him.
Oh my.
What a weird game.
Yep, that is a little bit chaotic right there, but it's still resulting in the 7,000 gold lead for TSM. 4 turrets to 0. Pushing a little hard there at the end, with Hanser going for the kills and missing a lot of skill shots. Looked like a teleport is coming in there, but I don't know. They'll swap out of this if it was actually important. Start of this one, CLG go for another pick, and we got an important play.
Yeah, the TP flank, he went through towards the red buff and looked for the flank on his fence, flank onto Bjergsen. Ulti not available, he can't buy any more time than this, but he's of course very tanky with the Buckler and Courage of the Colossus. Sadly, nothing really comes of it. Turns out, they were right. The replay is more important.
Well, it just showed that Darshan's TP was ineffectual and that they will have to wait even longer to try and make a play with that 7,000 gold deficit.
It's true.
It is true, but this is turning into a very one-sided game.
Yeah.
To potentially pop this game 3 if TSM is able to stay clean. It's one of the things they have to do, though, with the low tank in this team composition. Camille, bruiser-ish, but still building heavy damage. Trinity Force Ravenous Hydra, the expected play, can still orchestrate mid-game turret dives because of the massive shielding and lifesteal that can come in. I'm sure people that have played against many a Camille or Rivens in the mid-game know that just because you're not building tank doesn't mean you can't turret dive people.
That's
with
true.
Those champions, because the shields can be so immense. So TSM looking strong here.
Definitely are, and CLG's got to find their way around this one. We know they can be very good shot callers. We know we've seen comeback plays before, double TP, sometimes what it turns into. Realm Warp can be a good playmaking tool with that in mind. TSM in blue, playing it correctly, I feel like. Next Drake up in about 35 seconds, and they're playing for that to be the next major play. And once that's gone, they can start playing for turrets once again. But Biofrost camps on a control ward, says if you try to take over mid control, we'll kill you for it. And I like seeing the measured play.
Yeah.
They're taking no risk because they know they have a 99% objective secure in 20 seconds.
Exactly, and CLG is still going to be looking to make that play. Their team composition with the Morgana and the Varus is looking to get those picks and then burst them out with Graves. But Aframu's the one who gets caught.
And he's just gone right away. Black next 50, but it was actually support who was the target. Now Stixit being slowed down. Curtain Call doing all sorts of damage. Hexacle to made him, and there's the Snipe Turtle. Finally knocks down the CLG bot laner. 2 for 0. Map control once again, TSM.
Yeah, the Camille hook shot into the final shot from Jin is all the health. And then Hui just passed through mid lane.
And gets blasted. There's one kill. Maybe another one gonna come soon. Darshan forced a flash to run away from the rest of TSM. Hookshot's gonna land, and Hotzer, another kill onto the turret, into another turret itself. 4 kills plus a turret, plus now Baron in the eyes of TSM.
Smithy picked up that Infernal Drake, though, so worth it.
All right.
All of this. It was just a bad fight there for CLG as they got picked off one by one, and TSM's just gonna look to extend this lead.
Well, Infernal Drake is something. It's the best play they could have made with the circumstance,
Yep.
but it is TSM capitalizing on it, picking up Baron Nashor and picking up a 12,000 gold lead.
Yeah, 2 minutes from now, CLG was killing the Nexus of TSM in game 1, so tale of 2 games, really.
Yeah.
In this one, is TSM strongly looking to turn this into a game 3 with that next Baron. But watching this one more time, Afro just gets hit by that thresh hook over the wall. Didn't think TSM could see him. Then Hanser just gets straight onto Stixay as Wild Turtle finishes him off that ultimate. And then here's the part where CLG, for some reason, takes the short route towards mid lane, and they run into 5 people on TSM.
Yeah, I don't know why you think that's safe. I don't know if you think they're rushing Baron, and that's why, because it should have been Fog of War, but
still a
they were
poor
wrong.
play by CLG that makes a bad fight worse. Xmithy, though, the intelligent one, says, "What are you guys doing dying? I'm going to take Infernal Drake."
Yep.
And here we go.
Yeah, fight is in there again. Svenskeren dropped dangerously low. A nice tackle in for Darshan, but they can't do the rest of the damage. Instantly popping the double mark spin. They're gone already, and the dive is in for Afro. Make that 4 already. And Bjergsen now to do more damage to Hui. The snipes are coming through. Not quite arranged anymore, but there's the triple kill. There's the shutdown. There's the ace. And looks like it might even be faster than CLG's game win.
That's what they're going for. They just have to wait for the minion wave, but these death timers are
Or do they?
Death timers are actually pretty short. So 17 seconds on Stixay, 17 on Afro. They're going to get the inhib here. How much can they push?
It's only the one Ocean. The regen much lower than the previous, but they're going for Nexus turrets now. Here we go. Number 1's going to drop. Stixay up in 4 seconds. Yeah, I don't think there's a way back in this one. That's been the game. And the speed run, the world record's been increased already. TSM take down CLG even faster than the first one was.
Yep, 26 minutes for the CLG win. 25 minutes for the TSM one, but this time a 16,000 gold lead. By the end of it, CLG was up 6. Not that that actually matters.
Nope.
It's about who kills the Nexus. Now we're going to a game 3.
We are going to a game 3, and this one, to be honest, did not look close. This was TSM control the whole way through. They got the early kills in the 2 side lanes and never let up. Anytime CLG did anything, TSM got more out of it anyway.
Yeah, a lot of people also point to the champ select phase for CLG here, how they let Camille through. The Poppy was not an effective counter to it.
Yeah.
And Camille was very instrumental in the snowballing of that game. In the back of almost every fight, you saw this Camille just hook-shotting across the screen and killing Stixay in 2 hits.
Yeah.
So that's why she's banned a lot of the time.
Yeah, we know she's very strong. I think if you're first picking her, it's smart to do so. The idea was like, yeah, we'll bargain with you. We'll give you the Camille, that's cute. We'll take the Rise and the Varus, and that's the trade. But the problem is, like, Varus wasn't even picked last game anyway, and the Rise got countered well enough by the Corki of Bjergsen that it didn't turn into anything.
Exactly. It was pretty much a story of CLG just getting pushed in across the entire map, and then they couldn't have the playmaking to get themselves out of that predicament, so it turned into a quick win for TSM.
Turned into a very strong win for TSM. That's going to be that game, but now we're going to go into our analyst to break down that win by TSM.
Thanks, Freak, and there's a lot to talk about with this one.
Is there?
I mean, a lot of things that went wrong to talk about. I think for CLG TSM, and we talked after last game about how CLG has some highs and some low lows, and this one was a tough one to watch as a CLG fan. I mean, they really did not seem to ever get anything going.
Right, and I think it basically starts with the Poppy Camille matchup. This is one of the things people try and do to counter the Camille. Yeah. But it's not like really a true counter where you beat it up in lane and then you like suppress it in team fights. It's literally like you have a couple things that make it a little annoying to play Camille.
Yeah, and it just comes down to like interactions, right? It's like, oh, you have to save your W for when Camille uses her E against a wall, and then you can knock her against the wall. And we saw that like one time that Darshan was able to do it, and then he overchased, and then it ended up being like a really bad snowball in the top lane. But even if you play that matchup right and you just wait, it's like the Camille just scales way better. She becomes a split pusher, a great team fighter, backline diver. Like, this champion is banned and played in 4 roles competitively for a reason.
Right. I mean, it's the kind of thing where if the Camille just sits there and says, fine, I just won't ever try and fight you and farm, like the Poppy doesn't punish that super hard. And then, like you said, when it comes in the late game, you do have your ultimate to knock the Camille out of her ultimate, but it's still the kind of thing where, like, sometimes your carries are dead before you even charge that hammer up.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right, is everybody's like, oh, all these interactions that are Poppy favored. Well, we saw one where Darshan tried to dive underneath a turret, and then Hanser's like, nope, I'm going to ult you, you're going to stick here. And this one as well, the W is used from Darshan. Camille E has priority over Poppy E. So he just stuns him before he's able to hit him against a wall. So these interactions that people are talking about, like, they are ones that you can outplay and that can be Camille favored if you are not playing the matchup 100% correctly as a Poppy. And the Camille doesn't even have to use the E to gap close a lot of times because she has a movement speed increase anyway.
Yeah, well, let's take a look at where it started to go wrong in the top lane. A 5-12,
The
and
first pick.
it was
Oh, wait,
the
no.
first blood that Hanser was able to pick up here. And you know, all interactions aside and how a matchup should go, you have to talk about how it actually went. And I mean, what was this from Darshan, really? I mean, he charges in, he Qs the wrong way, and then, like, are you not expecting the ultimate? Like, what do you even get if you land that stun? You get a little bit of a poke? Like, you're not going to kill him under his turret at full health.
With flash up, yeah, I completely agree. I mean, you can criticize the draft all you want, and honestly, other than the Poppy Camille thing, like, there's really not that much to say that I think was terrible out of CLG.
And they got Varus and Ryze, right? And it's like they got good picks. So to me, this was not really like some massive draft failure. I think the discussion on like, is something a counter is interesting, and it's one that, like, I think deserves to be had because there is a lot of that lingo, right? Like, oh, like MF is a Zyra counter. Well, is it really? Yeah. It deals with the pick, right? Does it really counter it? Probably not. Same situation here, but at the end of the day, Darshan did not play the matchup well. He gave up first blood for really no reason. He suicided on that long chase after he did actually have the interaction that was a positive in his favor, and he almost got the kill. Remember, at that point, he was still down a level and down a LCS. If he was even there, he probably just straight up kills him.
Right, but it doesn't just go beyond the top lane, too. I think the mid lane struggled a lot. Yep. I mean, you see Hookie's damage just came pretty low. And Corki, even though it's like fine into Ryze, it's like not super strong, but we see the Ryzes sometimes just getting solo kill. It happened to Golden Glue once, too. Like, and I think Huhi just did not have a great game either. There was a number of fights around the mid lane that just went heavily in TSM's favor, and just every time that the two teams kind of butted heads, it just went heavily in TSM's favor.
Yeah, and I want to challenge you a little bit, Azale, on the it's not a draft failure. Because I still think that even if you play that matchup top lane as Poppy correctly, the Camille still has kill pressure on mid on a low mobility mid laner where she can roam and use the hook shot into lane. I think she's just such an oppressive champion with just so many options that it's almost impossible to shut her down, even with something that people consider, like you said, a counter pick.
Yeah, definitely fair. You know, we have seen a lot of success from Ryze and Varus as well, so I think it can certainly go both ways, and there's a lot of powerful champions. It hasn't been working out for teams in the North American LCS when they do let Camille through.
That's true.
But speaking of that, Camille, Hanser going to pick up our player of the game. He did look very well on it. You know, all mistakes aside from Darshan, Hanser capitalized. He moved around the map well. He was first to skirmishes. He was able to pick up kills in team fights. And really, there's not much you can criticize there from Hanser.
And I think it's important that when someone does leave the Camille up against you, you show that, like, no, you should stop doing this. This is not a good strategy. And Hanser basically put that idea in the ground, like, don't give me Camille, because it wasn't just like, oh, this is a strong pick and I can play it. I know actually how to use it outside of just the actual mechanics.
Yeah, and you think about Darshan, who was one of the first people to play Camille on stream. He knows a lot of the counters. He's played it for a long time. Maybe CLG were taking the gambit and saying, you don't play it, and we'll try to take it if it's up. But it didn't pay off.
Right, and I think moving into back on the other side, I think CLG now has a lot more control of the draft. They tried to grab it away on red side, which is really risky to do.
It's hard.
You have to leave up OPs if you're going to try and take back the like control of the draft, so to speak. But now that they're back on blue side, I think having those blue side bans makes it a lot easier, because TSM looks like they generally try and play the draft phase a little safer.
So we'll see if they can get the advantage there. This series is going to Game 3. Meet us back here in a few minutes to see who walks away with the bragging rights. CLG versus TSM concludes when we return.